Hi, this is the A-Team. We are Jonathan Carter, Dave Ford, Nick Irving, Michael Terpangian, and Daniel Pack, and what follows is a presentation we designed to explore the best business strategies for Robin Hood and his merry men. The conflict with the Sheriff of Nottingham erupted over the fact that Robin Hood had egalitarian values that led him to develop a plan to help the poor by undermining the power of their wealthy oppressors. This took the form of a personal vendetta against the sheriff, which then evolved into an open insurrection with the goal of overthrowing the sheriff and the existing power structure. When founding the Merry Men, Robin felt it was important that they be disciplined, serve justice, if not the law, and maintain loyalty to the monarch. It is important to remember these points because whatever strategy Robin employs in the future will need to be based on his values and related to his original goals. The forces that threaten the Merry Men from the outside include royal espionage, the sheriff's growing strength and influence, and the fact that Robin Hood's efforts to rob the rich have been so effective that the rich are now avoiding the forest altogether, making them effectively immune to forest robbery and causing a steep decline in the revenue of the Merry Men. The lack of cash coming in and the increasing numbers of Merry Men have also led to supply chain issues in the form of food shortages. There are, however, many opportunities coming from outside as well, and this includes baronial fundraising to free King Richard, the widespread unpopularity of Prince John with both peasants and nobles, the nearly universal desire to see King Richard back on the throne, and a perpetual state of unrest fueled by the sheriff's inability to collect taxes. Areas of strength include the fact that job roles and responsibilities are clearly defined because everyone is subordinate to Robin and follows his orders without question. Additionally, the attacks on wealthy travelers have been trending on social media via town criers and random gossip, leading to high brand awareness and an influx of new job applicants. Further, the routine armed robbery of increasingly well-protected travelers has led the Merry Men to develop paramilitary capabilities. Unfortunately, the popularity of the organization has also led to hypertrophy as more employees were recruited than could be provisioned for. Also, the lack of travelers to mug has led to declining revenue, which is causing internal conflict and differing opinions on what direction the firm should take moving forward. These problems are all exacerbated by an org structure that is too flat to deal with the increasingly large staff and a changing economic landscape. For the Merry Men to succeed, they need to maintain their corporate culture through careful selection of new employees and by recommitting to the group's original values and goals. They must also solve logistical issues by balancing the number of employees relative to the amount of catering the organization can provide. Finally, they must establish strategic alliances with the aristocrats who are aligning themselves against Prince John. Prince John is the Sheriff of Nottingham's ally, and without equally powerful allies, it is unlikely the Merry Men can stand up to Prince John and Nottingham alone. First, Robin himself suggested a policy change by ending the attacks on wealthy travelers and switching to a policy of taxing local peasants. While this could improve revenue, it would contradict Robin's values of helping the poor and it would erode the brand image of the Merry Men. The next alternative would be to limit the size of the group in order to make better use of existing resources. This would maintain the status quo for a time, but the sheriff's growing power would leave the Merry Men undermanned in any open conflict that arose in the future. Finally, a radical alternative was proposed that involves convincing the nobles to divert funds away from the rescue of King Richard and using them instead to fund an armed conflict between Prince John and the nobility in order to force Prince John to sign a proto-Magna Carta. This would establish a constitutional monarchy and end his abuses of power. Although the return of King Richard would end John's rule temporarily, John would still be in line for the throne, and King Richard engages in life-threatening behavior even more than the average medieval monarch. Further, King Richard himself is a terrible administrator, and, despite his shortcomings, Prince John is the more effective CEO. Forcing John to compromise and obey his own laws could provide the stability and freedom from oppression desired by all social classes. The option chosen was to join the growing conspiracy against Prince John and ally with the nobles to force the creation of a constitutional monarchy and a parliament. In order to achieve this goal, the merry men must keep the operation clandestine in order to avoid a preemptive strike from Prince John in Nottingham. Cash from King Richard's ransom fund must be redirected to build the military forces of the nobles opposing John. Additionally, the merry men must engage in a marketing smear campaign against John and his followers to both coerce more nobles to turn against John and to whip the peasants into a frenzy of even greater hatred against Prince John, assaulting the regent on as many fronts as possible. For this operation, the SMART goal has been defined as forcing Prince John to submit to the nobles and sign a Proto Magna Carta document within the next 14 months. This document will specifically protect the merry men as well as giving general protections to both peasants and nobles alike, thus ending tyranny in England and establishing the merry men as a lasting franchise. And that brings us to the end. We thank you for your time and we hope you enjoyed the presentation.